All right, we can go ahead and get started as people are coming in. Welcome, everybody. It's our third role model webinar of the summer, and today's focus is going to be on health and medical technology. All right, so as you can see, here's our summer schedule lineup for June and July. We hope everyone can join us weekly, same time, Mondays, for our panel discussions with current students, alumni, STEM role models from our community in these specific fields. And just a little introduction, my name is Gabrielle Ziegler. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a member of the crew of Women in STEM at the University of Texas in Austin. A little bit about me, I'm majoring in human biology and I'm from Manhattan, Kansas. And today we're gonna have Victoria Fegley, another WiSTEM crew member helping us with the Q&A portion of our webinar. You wanna introduce yourself a little?
Hi, yes, my name is Victoria. I'm a math major going into my sophomore year here at UT. And yeah, I'm so excited to join this Zoom with you all.
All right. So we're going to be adding these Role Model Monday webinars to our Women in STEM YouTube channel, and also the other videos of the other Monday webinars to help future and current students. So make sure you subscribe to that channel. Press notify too when new videos are added. And we're going to throw the link for the YouTube channel in the chat. All right. So today, like I said, our focus is on STEM and health and medical technology. So we're going to have each panelist share some quick introductions here in a moment to get us started. After the introductions, we're going to facilitate the panel. We have some pre-done questions, and then we're going to go to the Q&A. So make sure you're dropping some questions in the Q&A area because we'll be able to answer those later. All right. So if we want to get started, I'm going to call on the panelists and as I see them on my screen. If you want to give name, pronouns, hometown, what you studied, your major in college, and out of work hobby or activity. So Cassidy, if you want to start us off.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Cassidy Christie. I use she, her pronouns. I am originally from Jackson, Michigan, and I now reside in Austin, Texas. I majored in biomedical engineering in college, and I'm currently a PhD student here at UT Austin. And my favorite outside of work hobby lately has been rock climbing. I'm pretty new to it, but I'm really enjoying it.
All right, nice. I love rock climbing. All right, Erin, do you want to start?
All right. Hello, I'm Erin Lynn. I am from St. Louis, Missouri, but I currently reside in Pflugerville, Texas, which is just north of Austin. I got my degree at the University of Texas, bachelor's in biomedical engineering. I now work for GE Healthcare. I've worked for GE Healthcare for 16 years now. And then outside of work, I really just enjoy spending time with my family. I have a husband and two kids. We've got a pool in our backyard, so it's summertime. We spend lots of time out there.
All right, nice. Ridula, if you want to go ahead.
Hey, I am Radula. I am originally from India. I'm currently residing in Leander, Texas. I work as a machine learning scientist at Neurix Therapeutics, and I majored in computer science with a specialization in bioinformatics, and I'm currently working as a machine learning engineer.
All right.
And okay, I think I missed that. Yeah, and outside of work, I really like to hike and spend time outdoors.
All right, nice. And then Tania.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tania Betancourt. I'm originally from Bogota, Colombia, but I've been in the States for more than half of my life. I currently live in Austin, Texas, but I work in San Marcos, Texas at Texas State University. I did my chemical engineering bachelor's at Texas A&M University, and then my master's and PhD at UT Austin in biomedical engineering. I work as a professor at Texas State University, and I do research in the area of biomaterials, specifically polymeric materials that can be used for the detection and treatment of cancer, including like nanoparticles or nanomedicines and hydrogels. And then my hobby, I too have 2 kids and a husband, so we do a lot of kid things like, soccer practice and such, swimming, hiking, and gardening when we can.
All right, perfect. So since we got the introduction for everyone, we're going to move on to some pre-selected questions, and we can continue in the same order. So the first question is going to be, can you tell us a bit more about your role and your work you do in your field? And what are some key responsibilities you hold and maybe recent projects you've been working on? So Cassidy, if you want to start us again.
Sure. So, like I said, I am a PhD student. I'm actually going into my second year of my doctoral program. And my current work, so I focus on acoustics, physical acoustics specifically, with applications in biomedical engineering. So that's kind of that healthcare aspect. So a lot of what I do is a lot of individualized research projects with my PI, my principal investigator, who's like my boss. And so a lot of what I work on is a lot of computational work, a lot of theoretical work. So I'm usually sitting at my desk running a lot of MATLAB code, writing equations on a whiteboard a lot. So I study a lot of things that have to do with wave motion. So acoustics is a study of sound. So anything having to do with sound waves is what we do. And a lot of my current projects and those biomedical applications, I like to describe as the back end of ultrasound. So I pretty much study how we can make ultrasound systems better. My current project that I'm working on focuses on something called shear wave elastography. That's a way of measuring tissue stiffness using a type of ultrasound. And so what we're doing is figuring out how can we make these systems better? How can we get better data for the physician? So we do a lot of those background stuff, working with all of the equations, all those fun physics and math stuff, and coding up systems so we can kind of model what's going on in the tissues.
All right, awesome. Those are some really cool applications to hear about between medicine and acoustics. Erin, if you want to go.
All right. So I am currently a product manager at GE Healthcare. So a lot of people don't know what a product manager is. So I manage, I call it a group of products, my portfolio. I'm responsible to decide what goes into my portfolio, into my store, more or less. And then specifically, my portfolio of products is MRI accessories. So, MRI can be used for diagnostic imaging in a hospital, and there's a lot of other things that go with it that are used for patient positioning, patient comfort, a lot of things to just kind of help the MRI run as well. So I own all of that portfolio of products. I decide what goes into the portfolio. I get feedback from sales as to what they need. I decide what price points, again, based off of feedback from the field. It's kind of a hybrid between marketing, but then I also have to work heavily with engineering as well. There's a big piece of compatibility. We want to make sure that our accessory products work well with the MR products. So in terms of what I kind of do day to day, it's a global role. So I work with engineers as well as meet with salespeople and marketing people around the globe. So I'm on a lot of calls in the mornings, and then I get more work done in the afternoons. So it's a fun place to be. I've done other roles within GE Healthcare that have kind of prepared me for this. This isn't traditional engineering or traditional science, but it takes a lot of technical background to do it well. So that's me.
All right, that's awesome. Ridula, if you want to.
Yeah, like I previously said, I'm a machine learning engineer. So I work in a slightly non-traditional space where science meets technology. So I build machine learning methods and algorithms that could speed up medicinal research, especially drug development. So for example, if we are looking for a treatment of cancer, how can machine learning help these processes go smoothly or even faster? Because for a drug to enter the clinical phase and be tested in humans, it takes about 3 to 5 years. So what I do is I build machine learning models that can speed up this small process in between, and that could help chemists pick the best compounds, design best chemistry or drugs that are specific for that treating disease. So it's a really interesting space. And my day-to-day activities, I interact a lot with SA scientists, medicinal chemists, computational chemists, because these are the people who are producing data or either consuming my product or my algorithms. So yeah, it has been an interesting journey so far.
All right, sounds like it, yeah. And then Tania, you wanna-
Yes, so I am a professor. So I would say that my job entails three main things. The first one is teaching, and all of you probably have interacted with teachers or professors along the way, so you know what we do. In my case, I teach general chemistry classes because I am in a department of chemistry and biochemistry, but I also teach graduate classes in our material science PhD program, and specifically I teach biomaterials. The second part of my job entails research. And in the area of research, I lead a laboratory that's composed mainly of students, undergraduate, master's, and PhD students that actually do the research hands-on. My role in that is to come up with new ideas of technologies that we would want to develop, as well as to work day to day with the students to help them troubleshoot, any problems that they might be having in the lab, helping them to analyze or understand the data that they're obtaining, trying to forge pathways with them to get to what we want to do, to what we want to make. And in the types of research that we're doing right now, as I mentioned, I would say that they're in two main areas. One of them is nanomedicines. One of the recent projects that we have been working on is nanoparticles for photothermal therapies, where the nanoparticles by themselves don't do anything. The light laser that we utilize externally by itself doesn't do anything. But whenever we combine nanoparticles that are injected at the tumor with the light can heat up the nanoparticles locally to kill the cancer through heat. So those are photothermal therapies. And then the other area that we're working on is hydrogels for drug delivery. Hydrogels are materials that are kind of like contact lenses, very tissue-like, and they have the ability to retain drugs within and release them, in our case, upon external activation. And we're using light as a way to activate such release for like pulsatile release. And then the last part of my work is service. To maintain the department, the university running, there has to be a lot of other like committees, policies, reports that need to be written and such. So that's that.
All right, awesome. Yeah, as we heard, there's a lot of different roles and responsibilities people in the health and medical technology field can have. So another question we have is, how did you learn or gain the skills you have today? Specifically, were there any courses, mentors, experience you had that really helped you develop these skills or develop an idea of what you wanted to do in your future? And we can go in the same order. So Cassidy again.
Sure, that's a really good question. And I think the best way for me to answer it, and I think maybe all the panelists would agree, is that I think we're always learning and picking up new skills. And like, especially for me, still being a pretty new PhD student, a lot of what I do is learn how to kind of teach myself, and I'm still learning and developing my skills. But I think the main way and things that I picked up and things that stick out for me to get me where I am today were some experiences I had in high school and then one or two in college. So in high school, I was really involved with our first robotics team. And that was probably one of the first experiences I had that really was an indicator for me that I wanted to be an engineer and going to some kind of hands-on kind of environment, working on a team, building, creating, innovating. And so that space really helped me with my kind of hands-on and also my confidence as an engineer and my ability to kind of dream up these new ideas and see it come to life with a team. So that was the high school experience. That was kind of my, okay, what am I doing in college and how can I build on that? And then in college, I had a mentor that was really, really influential in helping me kind of, again, build that confidence and say, okay, what do you want to do, with the rest of your life? What does your career look like? And that was how I learned I really loved research and kind of being this, I want to be that like quote unquote scientist. I want to develop new ideas. I want to bring new science to the world. And so finding him, he was actually one of my professors and advisors, and being able to go to him and kind of get this advice from him just about life and what comes next, he really helped me pursue graduate school. And then on the technical side, I took a class specifically in musical acoustics, which is, studying how like a violin works, how a guitar works, those kinds of things. And I learned that I really love the study of sound. And so that kind of launched me into this field of acoustics, and I was a biomedical engineer. So I kind of just combined those two and found my biomedical acoustics side. So that combination of kind of an extracurricular, an advisor, and a couple classes that really stood out, those all kind of just in combination, just in this big melting pot of ideas in my brain kind of came together, and are still kind of the driving force for me as I continue with my education and career.
Yeah, I agree. As STEM and engineering, we're always learning and picking up new information. Erin, if you want to go.
All right, so thinking back, so when I was in college, I got the opportunity to go spend half of the summer in Cambridge, England. And we had our professor from UT actually took the group of us over there, and we took a course, a normal like engineering course over in Cambridge. And so we had a smaller class, and it was really our first, I would say, more like upper level engineering class. Again, and we're over in England, which is a cool experience. So I took a lot from that experience, one of which was the professor really encouraged us to work together, like on our homework. He said, this is challenging stuff. This is your first kind of real engineering course, like heat transfer. And there's a lot of real world applicableness. And so he would give us these like challenging like word problems, or like, think about when you're in school, it's your math word problem where it's, a paragraph that describes the, situation, and you have to figure out the math behind it. But this was all related to heat transfer. He encouraged us to work together. I really learned how to kind of collaborate with others. So one person understands this piece, another person's like, well, I understand this part of the problem. We'd kind of work together and figure out the answer, and we also helped each other learn, like fully understand it. I learned, I was good at once, oh, okay, we've got the solution. I was then able to like help other people. I could re-explain the problem. I could re-explain the solution so that other people could get it, because everybody kind of learns a little differently. So that was kind of my first experience there. And then just the fact that I got to go spend 6 weeks or so in Europe really kind of opened my eyes to the globe and just different cultures, different, ways different people work. I got the chance to travel and interact with people in other countries. It was probably my first kind of taste of, working with people around the globe. And so I did a global role just out of college. I came back and did just a US role for a little while. And now I'm back in this role where I talk to global people. So I kind of learned, continue to develop those skills along the way. So
Yes, thank you for highlighting the importance of like collaboration in the STEM field. It's very important. Regula?
Yeah, I think so. Since I am a computer science major, I was always interested in AI and machine learning. That always fascinated me, but somewhere I knew I want to apply this technology that is going to bring a change to this world, not just like, hey, let's predict the profits of this company and so on. So I was always interested to bring it into use for a change. And that's how during my master's at Colorado State University, and I was taking this machine learning class, and my professor, Dr. Asaben, who turned out to be my advisor later for my thesis, he brought me into this space where he's like, hey, you can use machine learning and you can also help cancer research, you can help COVID research and things like that. Why don't you just come into my lab? And that's how I entered into this field. And as I started to explore it over last 4 or 5 years, I can see a whole lot of potential where this AI and machine learning can bring such a big change to therapy, especially in cancer research, which is very critical for the country. And if we could find a drug that could cure a disease in any shorter amount of time than the regular traditional amount of time, it is always going to help this world. So,
Great, awesome. Tania?
Okay, so I wanted to say that I feel like my trajectory was not linear in that I didn't know early on that this is what I wanted to do with my life. I did know that I liked STEM from the beginning. I initially applied to study physics. I came to the States and ended up meeting other professors who from whom I learned about chemical engineering, and so I ended up studying chemical engineering. Not really understanding what that meant. And so, so what I would want to say to everybody is it's okay not to have all the answers initially. Just be open to learn, open to ask questions. And so mentors are a huge advantage. I mean, that's something that you should look for mentors, not just one person, but a couple of people that might have had different life experiences who can guide you in different directions and who can open doors for you. They might know about opportunities that you have no idea about. And so that's my first recommendation. The second thing, during my undergraduate years, I did co-ops. And so I highly encourage everybody to get an opportunity to do internships or co-ops or any kind of experiential opportunity that can let you see what it is that you can do with your degree. And you might be able to identify areas that you're very passionate about or areas that maybe they're not for you, right? And so that will help you to guide you in the right direction, whether you had a positive or negative experience. And then the other thing that I actually didn't know when I was an undergraduate was about undergraduate research opportunities. And that's something that I highly encourage my students to pursue nowadays. So there are opportunities that might be happening at your university during the whole academic year or during the summers, but there's also opportunities throughout the nation in most universities, small and large, prestigious and not prestigious. They have this research experience for undergraduates or REUs or other terms of the sort that would allow you to go and spend a full summer paid for, just learning how to do research, learning how to apply what you're learning to very interesting problems. And so that's unfortunately something that I didn't get a chance to do because I didn't know about this, but I wish that I had, and I think that would have been very beneficial to me. And so I myself kind of stumbled into graduate school trying to find what it is that I wanted to do for the rest of my life, and I was very fortunate to find it. And so if you stumble like me, it seems like that's okay. You might be able to find your way to a job you really, really love. But just be open for those opportunities. Be open to the recommendations from your mentors and such that can really kind of help you find that way. Mhm.
Yes, thank you. I agree that not everyone's path is linear, and realizing you got to be open to the mentorship, taking these research opportunities is important. So we have time for one more pre-selected question, and then we'll move to the Q&A. So make sure attendees, you're dropping the questions in the chat. So in the Q&A, my bad, not the chat. So we can get to those later. And so this last question, can y'all share an example of a struggle or maybe like a failure you faced in a class or a project that helped you kind of learn from it for your career path in STEM education now? So Cassidy, if you want to start.
Yeah, sure. That's actually become one of my favorite questions because I have learned that I have a really funny answer to it. So in college, my least favorite class, or the class I probably did the poorest in, was physics. And it was both physics mechanics and physics, electricity, and magnetism my sophomore year of college. I did not love the courses. It didn't click for me, and I thought for sure I will never touch physics ever again in my life. And I was very wrong. I now am in a field where essentially acoustics does boil down to physics a lot of the time. And so I've kind of wound up being kind of a physicist in a way again. And so it's really interesting to me thinking back on why didn't I like physics and I said I would never do this and how am I here today? But I realized that my physics class for me was really challenging, but challenging in a way that made me want to be better at it. And so it was just a class that the material did not stick for me. Biology and math always were easy. Physics was that hard one. And so I really learned how to find a class that was difficult, but I really, really enjoyed. And I think that's a really hard thing to get through. And the way I got through it was working with friends in the class that I had, people that were in my same major that were also struggling with the class, reaching out to my professor for help, going to tutoring hours, doing everything I could just to kind of squeeze by. I just barely squeezed by in the class. But I really found that having a class that was really challenging, but that made me want to try harder and harder was super important. So I guess my best advice there is there's always going to be a class that you're going to struggle with. Not every single class will come easily. And if it does, that's really awesome, but chances are there'll be something difficult. But finding every resource you can and trying to see the bright side, trying to see the glass half full and say, okay, maybe this is really, really important. You know, these topics are going to be really useful for me. Let me take this as a challenge to really push myself to be better at it. But know that, you know, it's not all going to be easy. You know, research isn't easy, life isn't easy. That's just how it goes. But you will make it through, and relying on your friends and your teachers is super important.
Yes, I agree. There will always be that one class or struggle. So yeah, having that growth mindset's important. Aaron, if you want to share?
Um, I'm just thinking back on what to share. So I guess one thing that's just a little more relatable, I guess, when I was in college, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I mean, I got into UT, I got into the biomedical engineering program. And it's kind of like, now what? What am I going to do after college? I hadn't really thought that far. So I had to kind of work through that, while in college, by a little bit of a process of eliminations. Learning I didn't want to do research. I didn't want to go do a PhD after kind of doing, a session in the summertime. And then, it's certainly, I was like, I want to go work for a company. How do I do that? It's certainly not an easy thing. People ask me all the time, like, how do you go work for GE Healthcare? Like it's there's no magic answer. A lot of times it's networking, it's talking to people, it's taking opportunities when you can find them, and looking, not sometimes a lot of times when I looked for opportunities, I couldn't find them, but they would find me. The more that I would talk to just people and let them know what, hey, this is who I am, what I'm excited about. It worked for me in college, and honestly, it continues to work for me now. Whenever I've like purposely said, I want to go take that job, it didn't work out. Like, but if I more organically kind of let my relationships, know who, what I'm interested in, what I'm good at, I often found that I had an opportunity I didn't know was there. Um, so it's, I guess my struggle has always, I'm always the person like, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I don't know where I'm going. But honestly, it hasn't stopped me. Like I'm, so there you go.
All right, yeah. Regula, if you want to go next.
Yeah. I remember one of the toughest struggles I had was when I started my master's and especially my thesis, because I'm a computer science graduate. I had no clue about bioinformatics, or everything I knew was from my high school knowledge. Now all of a sudden I had to think about or solve problems related to how drug is going to react with the cells, how body is going to react to the drug and things like that, and get into the very tiny little dynamics of the drug and body reaction, which was like totally new for me. And I was trying to find a way to catch up with my teammates in my research group. But one thing that really helped me is asking my advisor for questions, even whether they are lame or stupid. I never bothered about them. Initially, I was recalling, but I understood that if I'm not going to ask questions, it's me who is going to suffer and I'll have a hard time in my lab. So that's how I started asking questions to my colleagues, to my advisor. And even right now, I work with people from so many different backgrounds. Like there are people from wet lab, there are people from chemistry, biology, clinical teams, and it's such a wide variety of groups. And I'm still like a machine learning geek, but I still get to learn so many things from these people, which really helped me to break this ice, like asking questions and seeking for help. People have always been good in these terms.
I agree. Asking questions is important, especially the higher
Don't feel shy.
education. Oh
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Tania, if you want to share.
Sure. So I mean, I would talk about two main struggles that I had. One of them was classes. In my case, it was organic chemistry. That was really hard for me. I'm more of a math person, and so the memorization and such was very difficult for me. And so, like some of my other peers here mentioned, kind of looking for every resource possible, asking questions. I was asking some of my mentors, what they would suggest and such. But I'm sure that's a struggle that everybody goes through in one class or another. But then also, since I didn't do undergraduate research, when I started my graduate studies, just like Mirdula mentioned, starting research was very challenging for me. Basically, I didn't know what it is that I was supposed to do. And I was also the first graduate student in my lab. And so it was quite a challenge. So absolutely reading a lot, asking questions, being resourceful, looking at other labs, other students, and kind of seeing what are they doing. Can they maybe teach me some of the techniques that they're utilizing and such? Just trying to persevere. There's in research in particular, there's a lot of struggles, a lot of failures. That's kind of the whole game of research. You research, you do something, do an experiment, it fails, you try to identify what the problem is and what one variable to change at a time until you're able to figure it out, right? And so you have to just persevere, continue trying, looking forward to the moment when it actually will work, right? Being positive and knowing that it will work eventually. You will find a way, you will find an alternative path that will get you to the same location. Just being as positive as you can, even though it might be a long stretch before you get to that success. In the meantime, trying to take care of yourself so as to not go into depression and such when things don't work for a very long period of time. So finding what is it that makes you happy, whether that's walks outside, reading, taking some care of yourself to ensure that you're able to persevere through those long stretches of things not working.
No, I agree. It does sound a little superficial to say just never give up, but that's what's important, never giving up and taking care of yourself. All right. It seems like we have quite a few questions coming in. So, Victoria, if you want to take it over and we can start answering y'all's questions.
Hi, yes, we have so many great questions coming in from our audience. Thank you so much. Since we have so many for this portion, I'm going to restrict our answers to just one or two answers from our panelists so that we can keep it moving. The first question I have is, what are some tips for improving soft skills in your field? So like professional communication, maybe how to work with a team. Yeah, if I could have one or two of our panelists answer this question, that'd be great. Thank you.
I can go ahead. I think again, it's something you're always working on. I think the biggest thing is putting yourself out there, and saying, I'm just gonna give it a go. So something I personally have been working on lately is, as you know, a pretty new student in my field, knowing that I'm just gonna put myself out there and introduce myself in any opportunity. So in terms of networking and development, just going up to people and saying, putting your hand out and saying, hi, my name is so and so. I study this. I'd love to get to know you. Asking for an email, asking to connect on LinkedIn or whatever. That's a great way to just put yourself out there. And usually people are super, super receptive to that. And I think on the other side of it, with collaboration and some just like team working skills, seeking out some small projects to just insert yourself into, think like Tania said, just asking people that you collaborate with, people in other labs, if they can teach you some things, and reaching out and saying, can I work with you guys on this? And you'll just slowly kind of build up your repertoire of soft skills that way.
Absolutely agree. Thank you, Cassidy. It's really important to just be able to get your name out there and know people. Mridula, would you like to
Yeah,
answer as well?
yeah. To what Cassidy just mentioned, I would like to add that whenever you network with people, one thing that really helped me is asking them questions about what they do. That kind of builds interest and let people remember you. And then the other way is what she already mentioned is connect on LinkedIn, but asking question about what they do, exploring their research or their work, and asking questions about that really helps to make a connection with that person, especially when you are networking.
Thank you guys for that advice. That's very useful. Another question we have is what made you decide to pursue biomedical engineering in particular? What got you down that field, especially as opposed to other fields like being a medical practitioner? What stands out to you about this?
I say I can go. Um, I got into biomedical engineering purely just based off of it sounded cool. So that's why I decided to do it. Then once I got into it, certainly a lot of people decided to go on to medical school or other further education. Me personally, I was wanting to be done after college. I didn't want to go on to additional schooling. I mean, it's certainly a pretty big commitment of your time and additional money, whether that be loans or through cash of some kind. So it was certainly a big decision. Like I wasn't going to just do that just because other people were going to do it, just because medical was interesting. So I had to find a way to kind of get into that, really cool area of medical technology. So that's why I started looking for what medical device companies are out there. I was like, I would go to the career fair and just kind of look around and understand, well, what are the medical device companies out there? So that's who I could start to see if I can get a job with them. So it was just kind of a personal decision for me.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any advice they want to chime in on that?
Maybe if I could really quickly. So, I mean, being a biomedical engineer, you get to work on really cool projects, of course, but they have a direct impact potentially on patients. And so that's something that is unique to our field that is really exciting, right? We get to, like, as opposed to the doctors who might have to see patients day in and then out, and of course, help them as well. I feel like we have a little bit more freedom in terms of working with the technology that they can utilize later on. And so it's more maybe at the cutting edge, perhaps. I think more like looking forward to hopefully something that they can use in the future.
Thank you so much, everybody, for your advice. Next question I have is, what advice do you have for seeking out mentors when you're navigating those uncertain portions in your career or academic path?
I can go. I think one of the easiest ways to kind of the first step to finding a mentor is finding someone that you can slowly just connect with on maybe something as small as you both like, I don't know, a certain show or book, or maybe like a professor has mentioned they watch a show and that's really interesting to you, or just someone that the conversation flows really easily. For me, as someone that I would consider myself an extrovert, but I get kind of insecure sometimes and I lose that confidence. For me, it was really important that I found mentors that the conversation was just really easy. And so one of my biggest mentors and advisors, professors in my life that I can really connect with, he's super outgoing and super calm. And I always felt his calm presence was just very inviting and easy to talk to about whatever's going on in life in general. And so that worked for me. But finding someone that, the connection is just really easy, you don't feel like it's forced by any means. I think that's a really easy way to find someone to connect with and then slowly kind of build your relationship with.
If I could add, being a professor, I get a lot of students that only reach out for a letter recommendation and I've never seen them. So making that first step with the professors that you have in your classes, whether they're in your major or outside of your major, just, visiting office hours and starting that connection, introducing yourself, asking a question, maybe coming the next time and telling them a little bit about what you're thinking that your career is going to look like or what kind of opportunities you're seeking, and little by little building that relationship. And the other recommendation is to maintain those relationships. That takes a little bit of work. You might finish the class and never see that professor again unless you continue that. Send them an email every year or so and tell them, this is what I'm doing. I'm a junior now. I'm seeking opportunities for employment. I graduated, this is what I'm doing, maintaining that long term. You're going to need those letters of recommendation for a long period of time. You're going to need those opportunities for a long period of time. So make sure that you put in the work to maintain those relationships, those connections.
Thank you so much, Tanya. You're reminding me of some people I need to send emails to. But I agree that taking advantage of office hours can be very important and will make a huge difference. Another question we have is, what is some advice for young women going into STEM fields that you have?
I would like to say never be intimidated by challenges or what people say. If you really like something, go for it, pursue it. I do see some people talking about things like STEM is a difficult space. It's not meant for women. I have heard that during my grad school days as well. Like it's primarily meant for men and not for women, but just don't listen to them. There are so many growing opportunities and there are so many ways you can contribute to this world. Just never be scared of the opportunities.
Thank you so much. Does anyone else have advice they'd like to share?
I would say find your strength and really hold on to that and whatever it might be. And it might not be something that other people are good at. It might be something that you are, uniquely good at. Don't be afraid if it's quote unquote more of a girl strength. It's a good thing. Lean into that. Like women a lot of times are better at communication. If that's you, then lean into it. So find your strength, whatever that might be, and go for it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Another question we have is, what is something that motivates you when your work or your studying is getting really difficult? What keeps you going during those difficult times?
I think I would like to say it's tied up to my ultimate goal because this is a field that I have chosen. And at somewhere, for in my current role, for example, I'm working in cancer research. I know sometimes things might feel difficult while working, but what keeps me motivated at the end is that the end product that I'm going to make, or even the tiny bit of contribution that I'm going to make, could impact lots of lives. There is always a chance that it could impact people or help improve health conditions and things like that. So that's tiny little motivation that always keeps me pushing in, even though when things are harder. So always stay connected to your ultimate goal or the broader picture, because all these challenges could seem small, like over a period of time. But the bigger picture that you have in mind, or the goal you have in mind, that will always keep you driving.
Thank you. Does anyone else have some advice on that?
I would say, I mean, mine's similar. I work for GE Healthcare, and when something I'm working on just gets really stuck, like we get, conflicting opinions, conflicting priorities, I try to then focus on the end customer. I think about the hospital that has imaging equipment, the technologist that's trying to just scan patients, and what am I trying to do for them to make their life easier, and kind of just remember who my end customer is, and try to kind of focus the efforts there, because it certainly can get a little challenging on complex problems, but
Thank you. Another career path related question. One question is about how opportunities at UT, but we can open that up to opportunities you've gotten anywhere that maybe were unexpected. How have those opportunities helped shape the path in your field?
I can go ahead. So I think like Tanya was talking about earlier, those sort of undergraduate research experiences, sometimes they're REUs or they'll have another name, some type of research internship. I actually had the opportunity to do something similar when I was in college, at a university separate from the one I went to for college. And I worked in an applied research laboratory, and I was actually doing work that was very, very different from what I studied in college. I was working with a lot of computer science majors. We were doing a lot of like signal processing for radio frequency, a lot of coding work. And so it was very foreign to me what I was doing then. But it really taught me how much was out there in terms of research, and something that My kind of advisor, my supervisor told me that summer, because I went to him pretty scared about the fact that I was a biomedical engineer and I didn't know what I was doing. And I went to him and he said, I picked you for this role. I know what you're capable of and you're important to this team. And I will always remember that because it was just kind of that true of, okay, there's so much out there and there's so many things that you can do with your degree. And so that opportunity for me was a huge moment of how much is out there and leading me down this path of wanting to pursue research and keep me motivated to explore other fields. And so that summer was really important to me. So again, pursuing those opportunities, maybe for a summer, maybe for a semester, maybe even just a short couple of week project with a friend, stuff like that that you can do to really expand your horizon of what you're doing that might kind of motivate your career in a different path than you expected.
Thank you. And this is actually our last question. So if anyone else wants to chime in on this really quick, and then we'll start wrapping up.
I think I had a similar experience. So this opportunity for me for doing my thesis or research in bioinformatics was it happened like because I was attending this machine learning class with my professor, and he's like, "I have a position in my lab. Would you like to join?" And at that time, I had no idea what I want to pursue. I was still exploring, and all I was looking for a funding that could take care of my master's. And if there is an open position, I thought, why not give it a try? If I don't feel comfortable, I can just maybe quit in a semester. But if an opportunity is coming to me from somewhere else, so why not just give it a shot? And that's how I tried it, and it felt so heartwarming after that. That there are so like if I pursue this field, there are so many ways I could impact the health conditions and healthcare. So that's how I just decided to stick to this field for this long.
All right. Thank you everyone for sharing and answering some questions. So if we didn't get to your question, I'm going to put a link in the chat to upload those questions to the summer 2025 Padlet. We're going to have professionals, us women in STEM crew members answering those all summer. So if you didn't get your question answered or you have more questions after this, feel free to enter those questions into that Padlet. And then, so yeah, thanks for everyone joining us today. Thank you to our awesome, fabulous panelists. We look forward to hopefully seeing everyone at our next Role Model Monday webinar next Monday, focus on STEM and art, fashion, and design. So watch your email or our social media for links and details. And I'm going to drop that link in the chat real quick for our webinars. And that is it. So thank you, everyone. We're going to go ahead and end the webinar now.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. We appreciate it.